Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Project Pundit podcast. I know I've missed out a week. I'm very sorry. We're back. That's all. That's about all I'm gonna say on that one. But we are back with a very special episode, as this is finally the first episode we will also be putting out onto YouTube. Yes, I finally bought myself a camera. We can make YouTube videos now. Um, yeah, so that's pretty fantastic. Today we are talking about the international break. The international break has come around once again, and it means there isn't really a lot of things to talk about in the world of football. But one thing we can be talking about right now, and one thing we will be talking about, is England's Euro squad selection. Yes, the Euros are coming up this summer, and I believe England could actually go on and win the thing. Yes, I'm pretty much starting out this podcast with jinxing us. I think we are going to win the Euros. And I've decided to tell you with what squad I would go about conquering that almighty Euros tournament and finally bringing it back home. So, how have I decided to go about this video as my microphone is starting to fall down? Okay, I think we've gone about and fixed the problem. I have forgotten my train of thought though, but I'm just gonna tell you how we are going to compile this podcast. So, talking about the Euro selection is pretty hard because, first of all, I gotta disclaim the fact that this squad will probably be different than Southgate's England squad. Why? Well, pretty much because we just are two different people with different opinions, probably. Most of the names will be the same because there are a lot of shoe-ins for this squad, but some of the names might differ. I still think we're going to win the whole damn thing, so it doesn't really matter. Either way, my England Euro 2024 squad, 23-man squad, which is a difference from the last Euros where it was a 26-man squad due to COVID, I think that was. But a 23-man squad, so a lot of big names which will be left out, left at home. I've decided to compile a list of 7 reserves as well, which I will be mentioning. It will be 2 attackers, 2 midfielders, 2 defenders, and 1 goalkeeper, which are also the 4 sections we are going to talk about. And I'm going to mention them after each section, ending off with the players who didn't make the squad and why I've decided to let them stay at home. So, without any further ado, let's get straight into it with the easiest choices, probably, which are the goalkeepers. First of all, we have to talk about Jordan Pickford, who will be England's number 1. I don't think his position as number 1 has ever been more secure than it is right now, which is pretty great for him. Might not have had the best of seasons, but did save Everton quite a bit last season and the season before. So there is credit for him to be had there. Also never really has put a foot wrong for England, so there isn't really a reason why we shouldn't be starting him. That's why he is our number 1. As for the number 13 or 12, just the second goalie I'm going to bring is going to be Aaron Ramsdale. Why Aaron Ramsdale? Well, pretty much because he's used to being second goalkeeper right now. Oh, no, that's a little harsh. No, he's a quality goalkeeper, also a very good character to have around the squad, and I do think he is England's future number 1 goalkeeper. So bringing him along, having him play in case of a Pickford injury, isn't the worst thing in the world. As for the third goalkeeper, I've decided to go with Nick Pope, because I do think when fit, Nick Pope is probably the best out and out shot stopper out of the 3 goalkeepers. But he's just not fit, at least not right now. Injured his shoulder for the second time. The second time he dislocated the shoulder, so that is a very big injury to have if you're a goalkeeper. That's a big worry for Newcastle fans, especially. But if he was to not make the Euro squad in time or not be fit in time, the reserve goalkeeper I have decided to go with is Jack Butland. Why Jack Butland? Well, pretty much he is pretty much the only other decent English goalkeeper who is playing week in week out for a very decent Rangers side. So that's probably why I've decided to go with Jack Butland, or not probably, that is why I've decided to go with Jack Butland as my reserve goalkeeper, or the goalkeeper on the reserve list, but he might as well make it as the third goalie, because why not? As for our next category will be defenders. And this was a harder one. This is going to be a little more controversial, and that's for two reasons. One, England's defensive line is probably its weakest position, although maybe goalkeeper could be considered our weakest position, but that's just the one player. So if we're talking about multiple players, the defensive line is the weakest in my opinion. Uh, Still some pretty world class players there, but yeah, there are going to be both some omissions from the squad, which are going to hurt me especially. One omission, but there are also going to be there's going to be a big if, but I'm going to get to that when we get there. Let's first of all start with the two right backs I've decided to bring, and they pretty much pick themselves: Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker. I think you play Trent Alexander-Arnold in the games where England have at least 55% of the possession, because then he's just another creative spark in the team, but not just a creative spark, a genuine world-class creative spark from right back who can ping passes and create chances out of pretty much thin air. He's also a set-piece specialist, which England otherwise quite lack, so I would definitely be starting him in the games you are going to control. As for games you won't control as easily, think about your France's, think about your Spain, think about those kind of teams, then I probably would play Kyle Walker, because he's just that little bit more defensively assured. You trust him probably still above any other right back in world football to defend against a Vinicius and Mbappe. I know we can't face Vinicius in the Euros, but against that kind of player. As for the centre backs, which I'm going to take four of, the first two names kind of pick themselves. John Stones, who probably was the outstanding centre back in world football last season, in my opinion. An unbelievably intelligent player, a very well in ball playing. That's unbelievably hard to say for me for some reason. Yeah, he's a ball playing centre back who is unbelievably intelligent. He can play multiple positions, can fill in at right back, can even play CDM next to Declan Rice if we have to, and I'm going to get to that why that is so important. But John Stones is the kind of unbelievably intelligent player you want leading from the back if you're going to make it far into this Euros tournament. I've also decided to pick Harry Maguire because one, Gareth Southgate will just pick Harry Maguire. There's not a single soul in England that believes otherwise, in my opinion. Harry Maguire will go to the Euros, and let's be very real here. Harry Maguire has never set a foot wrong in an England shirt. He's always been a solid centre back for them, sometimes even more than solid. Think back to the last Euros, where Harry Maguire was absolutely unbelievable and unplayable for England. But I don't really want to start Harry Maguire. The one I'm definitely bringing is the one I'm going to say starts now, because my fourth pick I don't think you can get. Or let's talk about that fourth pick first. That fourth pick for me would have been Ben White. I think if you're Gareth Southgate and if you're England, you do everything you can to reconcile with this man, because from the reports of Gareth Southgate, there seems to be nothing wrong, or no scuffle or discussion between the two of them. So why would Ben White not want to come? Well, I've heard some people say it's probably because he is tired of being called up and not playing, which is fair enough. But he would play. In my opinion, he has to play. Think about how exciting a backline of Stones and White could be. Both unbelievably intelligent centre backs who have played out of that position in the past, which means they are incredibly comfortable on the ball in possession. You can be a ball playing, possession based side who can create from the back. That's such a progressive and exciting option. And I think Gareth Southgate is not paying attention to it enough. Which is a shame, which is honestly a shame. I don't know why Ben White doesn't want to be picked for England or doesn't want to be considered for England. I hope he changes his mind when it comes to the Euros. If he doesn't, I'd say bring Joe Gomez. Pretty much because Joe Gomez is a centre back that can play right back and left back as well, as he has done pretty good for Liverpool this season. But he isn't my reserve centre back. He's just my White and alternative because I think he and White have similarities. White is just the superior player, in my opinion. As for that last centre back who I would 100% bring to this Euros if you're England, and it might be a very strange shout, but hear me out. It's Eric Dyer. Yes, it's Eric Dyer. You have to bring Eric Dyer, and if you can't bring White, you have to start Eric Dyer. Because let's have it absolutely right here, he has been a transformative signing for Bayern Munich. A transformative signing for them. He has been unbelievable for them at the back since his move to Germany. He has put Upamecano and De Ligt, two very, very capable centre backs who haven't produced what he has been able to produce in Germany, and he has finally tightened up a little the backline of Bayern Munich, which was so leaky at the start of this season. It was almost laughable, and not even just the start of the season. Let's think back to the 3-0 win of Leverkusen and then the 3-2 win of Bochum from a couple of weeks ago. They're absolutely incredible. But Eric Dyer knows German pitches now, knows German football a little, is playing unbelievable for still one of the best teams in Europe. Why not bring him and why not play him? He has experience with the England squad, has played a lot of big games for England. So yeah, bring him. Why wouldn't you bring? Why wouldn't you bring Eric Dyer? Tell me now, why would you leave him at home? Why? Before I get too invested into the whole Eric Dyer situation, let's move on to the two left backs I'm bringing. And these two don't have to have a lot of discussion because they pretty much pick themselves. It's Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. Luke Shaw, England's best left back. Ben Chilwell, England's other good left back. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, you start Luke Shaw if he's fit. If he isn't fit, if he is not fit enough to go to the Euros, that would be shit for England. I do think if he's not fit enough, and that brings me to one of the omissions I'm going to talk about later, but bring Trippier in his case, or bring Livramento, who is actually on the reserve list. I've decided to put Livramento on the reserve list instead of Trippier, just because he's younger. So he's more likely to play for England in the future. So if you're gonna have to rely on a third right back or a third left back, let it be him, because why not? He's deserved it. He's earned it right by now. The other center back slash fullback on my reserve list is going to be Ezri Konsa. Why? Because Ezri Konsa is a pretty intelligent defender as well, who can play both right back and center back. And I do think, yeah, it's just useful to have that kind of player who also can be a ball-playing center back, as we've seen under Unai Emery. So you see, I want our center back duo to be progressive, to be able to play out from the back, and I do think Konsa could help out with that as well. So that's why he's the last defender I'm mentioning, and he's the one on my short list alongside Livramento. So that means, as for our defenders, we have gone for Walker, Trent, White. In case Ben White doesn't come, it's gonna be Joe Gomez, Eric Dyer, John Stones, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, and Ben Chilwell. Meaning we are 11 picks into our squad. exactly halfway, but now we are getting to the more interesting parts, the midfield and then the attack. Talking about the midfield, there's obviously one name that immediately picks itself, or maybe more than one name, but the one name that comes to mind if I'm talking about England's most important player, and especially the most important player to keep fit, it's Declan Rice. Name me a CDM that has been better this season than Declan Rice, a defensive midfielder. And in my opinion, Rodri hasn't. Rodri has a very, very, very specific role for City, which he performs unbelievably well, and he's still top three defensive midfielders in the world, in my opinion. But I do think Declan Rice has been the best defensive midfielder in the world this season. Prove me wrong, man. Look at how unbelievable Arsenal is playing, and you're not telling me with the amount of goals they are conceding, which is very, very little, that all that defensive protection is coming from Jorginho. It's not. It's very much not. Jorginho is pretty great for Arsenal, has been pretty great for Arsenal the last couple of weeks, but still, it's Declan Rice who is the absolute mad lad in that team and the absolute menace. So he is obviously the first pick I'm going for, and an absolute shoe-in for me in the midfield. Has to start every single game, England's most important and influential player. But what if Declan Rice was to get injured? And that is a very hard question. You know what? I'm actually gonna come back to that question because I don't want that. I don't want Declan Rice to be injured. So let's talk about the good things. Declan Rice stays fit the whole tournament. Who am I playing next to him? Well, I've talked about it before. There is a difference, in my opinion, in the way we should play against the teams we are going to dominate or just control the game against, which should be most of the teams we play against. Especially during the group stages, we should be controlling all the games. So that means during the group stages, I want to play a midfield consisting of Declan Rice in the 6. In the 8, I'm gonna start Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham obviously is a show in England's starting 11 for every single game. Probably been the best player in Spain, which means, yeah, he's an obvious starter for us as well. 20-year-olds come to Real Madrid as some kind of messiah, unbelievable, ripping it up over there. Get him into the team, get him winning the Euros this summer, please. But why am I playing him in 8? Because I want Foden in the center as well. Can you imagine a midfield 3 of Declan Rice, the best number 6 in the world? Jude Bellingham, maybe the best number 8 in the world? And Phil Foden, the best player this season in the Premier League, in my opinion? That midfield is absolutely mouth-watering. If that midfield can have the balance, I hope it does. And let's be quite honest here, if Jude Bellingham gets to play in a 10 role for England, the balance is quite a bit off. But Bellingham, as the reports say in Spain, has asked Ancelotti himself to play a little bit further back than the number 10 role in the last couple of weeks, and I'm talking about a month or two now, which means his attacking output has dropped off a little, but his defensive output has gone up. His involvement in play has gone up because he has been stationed a little deeper, and he wanted to be involved in bigger parts of the game. So why wouldn't he be able to and want to be able to do the same thing for England? Rice, Bellingham, Foden, anyone? But yeah, that's my starting midfield 3 in the games we are going to control. And it could, if you see that it works wonders, start that midfield 3 against a big side as well, a big opponent like France, for example. But if you don't want that, or if Rice gets injured, I think England's second best number 6 is Kobbie Mainoo. Am I wrong? Am I really wrong in saying Kobbie Mainoo is England's second best number 6? I don't think so. Kobe Mainu is 18 years old, started breaking through Man United's team this season after a pretty long injury at the start of the season, and has not looked out of place in any game. Not any. He has probably been Man United, if you forget Casemiro's last season, because let's be honest, Casemiro is shit this season, but if you forget the season he had last year, Kobe Mainu is Man United's best midfielder already since Ander Herrera, and will pass Ander Herrera pretty soon, probably. Even though, let's put some respect on that man's name, Ander Herrera, he is an absolute legend. But Kobe Mainu, I do think he's incredible. And he's 18 years old, he will only get better. He's unbelievably exciting, an incredible player for the future. Take him with you. Take him with you. If you want some more midfield dominance, especially defensively, play a double pivot of Mainu and Rice. How exciting is that? Mainu and Rice, 18 years old, 24 years old. Yeah, bring him. Bring him. Bring him to get him on the plane. Please. I don't even get why he's not coming with the England squad right now. He should have been called up to the senior squad, not to the I think it's the U21s right now, which is weird that it's the first time he's playing for them as well, but still, he should have come with the main squad. Come on, man. I'm My reserve one is also a defensive midfielder, because if one of them gets injured, you have to bring another defensive midfielder, and I've decided to go for Calvin Phillips. One, because Calvin Phillips has done it before in an England shirt, has performed very well for us, even though he is having an absolute stinker of a loan spell out at West Ham. But I'm also just not bringing Henderson. I'm not doing it. I'm not bringing Jordan Henderson. No way. Not a chance in hell. I'm playing John Stones, Ben White. I will play Marcus Rashford at CDM before I bring Jordan Henderson with England again. Thank you. As for our two last names, the second to last name is another shoe-in as well, in my opinion. It's James Maddison. He's had an unbelievable season at Tottenham. Shown he can play both the 8 and the 10 role pretty well as well, so that's pretty great for a backup, as we've decided to bring backup CDMs as well. And the fact that he can also fill in at 8 means that for our last pick we can go maybe for a bit more of a wild card, the type of player who can turn the game on its head without him necessarily fitting in with the way England want to play football. I've gone for Eberiche Eze because I just think he has that X factor, that star quality. I think if you sub him on in the 85th minute, he could just score a free kick in the 89th and drag you to the final. That's the player he is, and I think, why not bring that? Why not get more players on the plane if you already have the squad depth and the options that can just win you a match like that? Bring him. So those are my midfielders, meaning I have Calvin Phillips as one reserve midfielder, and the other one I've decided to go for is Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher on the reserves list. Well, why? In an ideal world, he doesn't start, because Conor Gallagher, in my opinion, works best in a midfield which is lacking balance. If there's chaos in your midfield, Conor Gallagher is the man you need to get in there, because he will just try and get on the ball as much as he can and create as much as he can, but don't ask him to play in a particular role or system, because he's a little too limited for that, in my opinion, which isn't really a fair stick to beat him with, but still. That's why I think if Enzo and Caicedo finally find their place in Chelsea's midfield, he'll probably be the one who's upgraded, because I do think he thrives under chaos. And if England lose a couple of key players due to injury, there will be chaos in the midfield. Then yeah, bring Gallagher. He will be good for us then. But only then. As for our last line, this was the midfield, meaning there are probably some names you guys are already typing in the comments. Some midfielders. Why is this player not involved? Why is this player not involved? I'm sorry. It's my list. Leave your squad selection down below, by all means, and I'll let you know why you're wrong and I'm right. But let's get to the attack without any further ado. The attack also consists out of 6 more players. Then we have fulfilled our 23-man squad quota. The first player that has to be a shoe-in is obviously Harry Kane. What more can be said about Harry Kane? Probably the best striker in the world, especially this season, ripping up the Bundesliga. And how beautiful would it be if he can lift his own curse, not by joining Bayern Munich, but by winning England a Euros? Yes, I see the headlines, I see the dream. Don't mind if I do. Another shoe-in is obviously Bukayo Saka. Has done amazing things for Arsenal this season. Not only just amazing things, is Arsenal's, in my opinion, best and most important player. An Arsenal side which I personally, during my time watching football, have never seen play as good as they are right now. They are unbelievable to watch. The form team in England, and in my opinion, playing like the best team in England. Yeah, I love watching Arsenal play, and I love watching Bukayo Saka play, and I can't wait to see him don the mighty England shirt this summer. As for our left flank, and this is a bit more of an open shout because I've decided to go for Foden as a midfield option. Meaning, I want to play Ollie Watkins, left wing. And I know this kind of feels like you're just rampacking a lot of good players into a starting 11, and it might not work. But the luck England has is that we don't really have a big opponent in our group stages. Okay, Denmark might be a pretty good team, but there probably will be 3 teams moving on to the next stage, so you can experiment in the group stages. And I think with the form Ollie Watkins has shown for Aston Villa and the kind of player he is, which is a very pacey kind of poacher-esque striker who likes to get in behind the defense, play him on the left wing. He has done it for Brentford. He's kind of done that on occasion for Aston Villa, and he's had too incredible of a season not to give him at least some starts in the Euros. So yeah, Watkins left wing, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. That's my starting 11. Pickford, Walker, Stones, White, Shaw, Rice, Bellingham, Foden, Saka, Kane, and Watkins. That's an unbelievably filthy team. As for my 3 backup attackers, I've decided to go for Rashford, because I do think Rashford can just fill in at the left flank or the striker role and can play in striker if the whole Watkins situation was to not work out in regards to the left wing position. I've also decided to go with, let's have a quick look on my cheat list here, Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon might be a little biased pick from me, but I do think if you're England, it's useful to bring him. You can also play him left wing and make from Ollie Watkins your backup striker. But I would start Watkins over Gordon. I'm not that delusional. But I do think Gordon is something else that England don't really have, which is just a burst of pace and, you know, a, just underneath world class level player. He is not that technical, but his technical abilities are still fine. Very, very much fine. But the fact that he isn't that technical means he's more direct. And I think against tired defenses, bringing on someone with Gordon's pace, with Gordon's eye for goal, which he has shown this season, yeah, take him along. Throw him onto the field with 10 minutes left against tired defenses. Why not? And the last pick I've decided to go for in England's attack. I don't really like the fact that I've picked him, but that's nothing to do with the player himself. It's more so to do with the club he plays for, probably. But it is Mr. Cold himself, Cole Palmer. Yeah, with the season he has had, it would be quite literally foolish of me to not bring him along to the squad. You could also very much play him maybe at the left. Could he play left wing, or could Saka play left? No, It's a shame for him that he starts on the right wing because Bukayo Saka will just play every minute. But the same story for him as for Gordon. Why not bring a winger you can bring on against dire defenses and have them create a little havoc in case you need a special spark to pull yourself through to the next round. My backups or my reserve list for the attackers are Bowen, because Bowen is probably the most limited English winger who is a direct goal threat. He's played a lot of games for West Ham this season in the striker role, which tells you a lot about the kind of player he is. I think you can bring him and he will be decent for you. He just won't ever be that 10 out of 10 kind of player. And I've also decided to put Ivan Toney on the reserve list because I do think he is a good striker to bring if one of your striker gets injured. But if they don't, leave him at home because I do think his main character syndrome is quite toxic, and I wouldn't want that near my players. But that is my Euro squad. Me as an England fan, I want those players to come, which means I've left some big names out, and I see I have already gone over the half an hour mark, so I'm just really quick going to go through these players. I've left out Trippier, as I said before, quite simply because I want Livramento on the reserves list, as he is younger and will just play more for England in the future. I've decided to leave Tomori at home. That's maybe one that needs a little bit more of an explanation. Tomori is a good defender, but is quite unlucky probably that he's playing football now and not 20 years ago because he's just a good defender. He can't really play out from the back. He's not that good with the ball at his feet. He's not that intelligent. A centre back in comparison to centre backs like Stones or Ben White. I'm not talking about the intelligence of the man himself. Um, so I do think there's a lot of downside to bringing him. A lot of things you lose, and he has just had a bad season. Also in terms of his out and out defensive stats, they've all dropped off quite a bit. So I don't think there's a lot of merit to bring him. I've also decided to leave Gehi out. I do think Gehi is a future England centre back or a future starting England centre back, but he has just had a very poor season for Palace, so I wouldn't want to bring him either. Lewis Dunk, because I just think he's pretty shit. There's not much more to it. I've also left out Mason Mount. Mason Mount because he's just been injured the entire season, which is a shame. I really want to see him doing well at Man United, but we haven't seen it so far, so I don't really want to bring anyone who isn't fit. Jack Grealish, also a very big omission, a £100 million omission. Um, he will probably be in the squad over players like he will probably be in the squad over Anthony Gordon, but I wouldn't wanna see that. I think Anthony Gordon brings more direct threat than Grealish does. Grealish is a better player in if your team is up against it and you need this one guy who can just create something out of nothing and everyone can pass to, then Grealish is your man. But if you're England, I can't see him doing well this tournament for England. I just can't. So I'm leaving it out. I'm leaving him at home. I know it's probably the most controversial pick on the list, but I'm not bringing Jack Grealish. I'm also not bringing Raheem Sterling. Half a year ago, I was bringing Raheem Sterling because he was still performing very good for Chelsea, and he has always performed very good for England. But I can't see Southgate bringing Sterling, and I don't really want to bring Sterling myself either. He's not even the best English attacker at Chelsea right now, so yeah. He just really has to step up his form, man. It's sad. It's really sad. The whole Sterling story, it's really sad in my opinion. And the last player I've decided to leave out, I did really want to mention him. It is Jadon Sancho. He's doing well out on loan at Dortmund, but it's not enough to really get him into any kind of serious contention for the England Euro squad. So that is my squad and my missions and why I have left out the guys I did. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to Leave a like on the YouTube. Yes, let's go and go subscribe on the YouTube channel. This has been very cool to finally record this in video format as well as an audio format. Maybe this even will be posted as a video onto Spotify. I don't know yet. We will see. But for now, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I hope I see you next week with the next podcast. Bye, guys.